9.
Yeah.
What's the 650,000?
Well, as Mel mentioned, the current plan is to try to divide it up evenly. There isn't.
The Mental Health Services Act several years ago created funding, and part of the funding had to go into, and recognized that there were facility needs, and that's where we actually started out with, I want to say it was about 800,000, 800,000, and we used the initial allocation of that to do in Hurlong for the heating and cooling system at the one stop. And there was something over in Westwood that needed to be fixed. So the amount that's left over was about between 600,000 and 700,000. You know, the problem that I feel that existed is that we're not very good at getting something done when the time comes. And it sits there, and and I don't want to criticize staff because I think they do the best they can with what they have. But the fact that it can go on for year after year after year, the value of that money diminishes. What we could buy with it, 8 years ago is a lot more than what we can buy today, and that's the reality. And the present value of money is really important. And we got kind of caught in a vicious cycle dealing with the mental health folks, the advisory board and everything. They did the stakeholders meeting. They went around and held hearings in all the outlying areas as well as here in the Susanboro area. And the Big Valley always has the best turnout. I mean, they turn out in droves, and they made a clear and convincing case as to what needed to be done. Brian was on the board at the time, and he worked hard to get the building they have in there. The moment we moved in, they recognized it was too small. I mean, so it's been too small from day one. So this was going to add to that. And just like every project you start out with, it turns into a Christmas tree. Well, it'd be nice to have this and nice to have that. Pretty soon it's this huge addition. And if we built it back when it was first scoped out and done, and we could have gotten it done, then we probably could have used the budget and got it done. But what happened is it took 3 years because we needed this guy to draw this plan, and we relied on this guy over here, and he was on vacation, and he had 10 other priorities that were higher. So things drug on, and so when the time came to get the bids in, we were like $90,000 short. Well, that killed the project, and we've been kind of in a tailspin ever since. And that's where they took the pot. I think the last meeting last fall, the staff recommendation was because of the critical need in all 3 areas is instead of putting all the money in one spot and getting that done, is to divide it into 3 pots and maybe bring in some modular type buildings to augment the existing facilities there, so at least they have something, to be able to work within. And that was where the 200,000 per unit was. Of course, in the meantime, when you came in with the suggested possibility of using the old Aiden school buildings to be able to meet at least the facilities needs. But that's, that becomes now a kind of a side issue over there, whether we do that or not. But, the reality is if we keep dinking around with it like we've dinked around with it for the last 5 years, you're going to be lucky if you get $200,000 worth of value out of that pot of money that started out way $750,000.
And that goes back to those frustrations.
Yeah, I mean, and Lillian's not the only one that's frustrated. There's those of us who are frustrated too because we want to see it done. That's the bottom line. And we went through several administrations that couldn't get it done, and I think Mr. Egan has demonstrated the ability to make things happen. So I'm counting on you. I'm putting my money on you, Richard. All 5 of us.
Well, with regard to the Hurlong one stop, once we reacquire that, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, that'll pave the way to do the improvements there. With the Big Valley one stop, I think it was staff recommendation, and I concurred that the site in Aden, it was a much more efficient site and a much better way to provide services to the clients at a lower cost than the budget that we saw for trying to expand that building. If that's not going to work, then we need to do it again. But $200,000 isn't going to go very far.
What's the 200,000 in the plan for Westwood?
I don't think we have specific. Do we have a specific plan for Westwood?
There's a modular building to augment what they had, I thought.
No, actually, Westwood, we are talking about going through and making it a building rather than a garage. Taking out the door, putting in some office space and some meeting space. And, without us having full-time presence there, then we can balance our needs for space there, hopefully enough so that the building that's there is enough. And if it's not there, it looks to me like storage is kind of the issue at Westwood and Beaver too. And so that, maybe some kind of a facility for storage might help
Why don't we come back
too.
in like a month, and with the money, each family resource center,
Okay,
what the plan is to use it and how we can get moving, get it done.
get it done next fiscal year.
Yeah.
I don't know that can be done in a month because it's, it's easy to say that. I know nothing about buildings, and we don't have a general services division that has an engineer who can say, here's what we need to do with these buildings. And that's why I need to have a contract with somebody who can tell me what needs to be done with the buildings.
Pete can take care of that.
We might be able to come back conceptually with the
Right.
projects.
Yeah, that's all we're
Not-
looking for.
Yeah, in a month, all I want to see the plan of Westwood going over Beaver. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're headed. This is, the end product we hope to get to.
Yeah.
The plan.
As soon as we can get it.
All I'm asking for is a plan at this point. So it don't get,
Count on you for make this happen.
what I don't want is this meeting to be over and that's the end of it.
No.
Right.
We want to use as many, Jim is right, pretty much 99% of it. Okay.
He almost gave you 100. I'll take 99% of it.
All right, is there any more discussion on that item?
I think, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I think, which has nothing to do with the specific building needs, but I think it affects it in the long run, and I think Mr. Egan needs to be given some focus to this, and I think he has already given a lot of thought to it, is that we need to look at how, and we've kind of seen some progress made in terms of how he has organized his office and centralizing resources to be able to get jobs done. The problem is that I think that's underlying the frustrations that everybody has, is no one department is fully equipped to take care of the challenge that's there. So you have one department that has to rely on another department, which relies on another department, or maybe some outside resource to get things done. What we need to do is how do we reorganize our functional departments to be able to be self-supporting in terms of being able to get done. And it may be, we all say, well, turn to P. Well, the problem is P's divided like 9,000 ways. What you need to do is clone P and have a couple more P's with P, okay, who can actually get the jobs done. And repeat. Repeat. But I think this really, I think, quantifies the institutional barriers that we have in terms of we have an old, antiquated, bureaucratic arrangement, and we need to look at how we can remake that. And I told Richard when he came on board, one of the things I told him was you need to think out of the box. Okay, just because your predecessors organized and conducted business the way they did doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to do it. I says, be creative. If you want to reshuffle the boxes around and come up with a different way and a different approach, that's going to be not only his key to success, but our key to success in the county. And I really think that this is a classic example where if we had the boxes rearranged a little bit differently in how we conduct business and putting our resources into the right folks to get, in terms of expanding their capacity to get the job done and follow through, so we don't take 5 years to get something that could be done in 5 months or maybe even a year, so that you can get the best bang for your buck. Because that's where we lose, I think, the incentive. And I'm hoping that Richard can figure that out.
Richard will figure it out. It will take a 5-minute research.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Thank you. No. Take care of it. Bye-bye.
Moving back to order. Let's take up F1.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, F1 is the Doyle Parks Committee, and appointments to the Doyle Parks Committee. If you look at the packet, you'll notice that there are interestingly 9 persons on this committee. It appears from the that's a heck of a committee. And it looks like a number of those folks have been on that committee for a number of years. And it looks like all 9 of them want to be on it again. And it also looks like all 9 of them are up now. There's no staggering of the terms that I can tell. And so
Wait up, Tim.
that is.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, it appears that we have written confirmation from all 9 of the individuals listed on the agenda that are requesting reappointment. And I don't know if there are any questions on pinch hitting for the clerk. And you're welcome. If you have any questions, she's happy to answer.
Let's get them all back. They actually function pretty well.
Got a motion?
Yep.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Go to information consent calendar. Anything there to be taken off for separate discussion? Seeing none, we ready to make a motion to pass the information consent calendar as is. Second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. About 3 pages. We have, how long they want to take?
Just as long as you want us to.
2 minutes and 56 seconds.
Go ahead, Richard, you got 2
All right. What you have in front of you is a recommendation for some budget adjustments regarding the BLF sales tax realignment. Due to the AB 85, the state is funding the social services realignment through the BLF sales tax realignment instead of social services sales tax realignment. It's a change from the prior year, and adjustment will cover the revenue increase in the general fund and transfer of the funding to the social services tax realignment.
So it's cost neutral, it's just a...
Right, we're changing from one budget unit one fund to another.
I would move Mr.
I'm sorry, just to comment on that, Health and Social Services was already here and asked for the increased appropriation to accommodate this increase.
I would move Mr. Hill that we approve the budget transfer. I'll support this one.
Motion is second. Any more discussion?
One question on this, the BLF, is that actual BLF or the vehicle license fee, is that the actual fees for license on it?
That's our share of the vehicle license fees.
I guess we should say some clarity on the tape in the minutes, and that I would move that we approve the recommended budget adjustments to general fund increased revenue and the state BLF sales tax realignment to increasing operating transfers out by $1,623,220 and to decrease from the social services sales tax realignment fund 166 revenue and sales and use tax increasing the operating transfer in by $1,623,220.
We got a second on that. Okay, any more discussion? Questions, answers? All in favor, say aye.
Four-fifths votes, he's like.
Taking 4-5 vote, thank you, Mr. Chapman. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Hinkle?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle?
Aye.
Thank you.
You got 15 seconds left to stall. All right,
Staff, be getting ready.
2 minutes.
Staff, be getting ready for 11 o'clock public hearing. If we are on time.
We'll be on time.
And away they go.
Okay, I open public hearing at 11 o'clock and ask for staff report. And that public hearing is application 014-019, Michael Cummings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. Maureen Anderson, Planning and Building Services. And as you said, we're here today to consider an appeal of the Planning Commission's March 4th, 2015 disapproval of subdivision application 2014-19, which was for the purpose of dividing 25.75 acres into 3 parcels and a remainder. The proposed parcels were, parcel A was to be 3.42, parcel B 1.11, and parcel C 0.11. The remainder parcel was to be 20 acres, 0.11 acres, excuse me. and that would be remainder parcel, not for residential development. So the application, the zoning is A2B4, but the D allows for a density option, so that basically means that you can make smaller parcels if you want to, if the board wants to, if the planning commission wants to, as long as the overall density stays the same. So that's what Mr. Cummings proposed to do, and that's how he got the smaller parcels, as you see there, the two little ones next to the original. And this is a subdivision because some years ago there was an application for a parcel map, which is right above it, and that's those 4 parcels right above the subject parcel. So again, this did go through the environmental review process. It went through TAC, it went to Planning Commission, and actually was heard twice, and ultimately it was denied. Most of the consideration from the Planning Commission's perspective was the density option, and that it was a departure from other parcels in the area, which were mostly 4 acres in size. Again, what Mr. Cummings did above there was slightly smaller some years ago when he did that application, and this is, I think, what his attempt is to finalize his application and have 2 more parcels. So this map indicates what the zoning is in and around the parcel area. You see the green is A2B4. You have some A2B2 above it, but most of those parcels are not 2 acres, they're larger. So
A2B2, that's the blue?
that's the blue, yes. And the green is A2B4. And below, south of the island, basically coming to the road makes that island, is mostly agricultural and large parcels zoned for ag. And you see the brown is a big swath that goes towards Standish, which is also zoned agricultural. So, excuse me, everybody seems to be either sick or getting over being sick.
No.
Well, I'll add a third category, pending. So, excuse me. So, we went through, as I said, Planning Commission twice. We had a split vote the first time. We got the 5th member there, and the second time, and it was denied. And so, just from staff's perspective, the general plan does promote the idea of clustering, and so we didn't really have a problem with it. The process worked, though, because the Planning Commission heard it, there was opposition, and that's what it's all about. And so several of the neighbors showed up and were not in favor of the application, and that ultimately swung the Planning Commission to denial. And that's why we're here today. So I'm willing to answer any questions. I know the applicant is here. So there is an outstanding item. The packet is defective.
In what way?
Wait.
In what way?
In what way is we did not include the appeal letter by Mr. Cummings.
The actual request to appeal the decision of the Planning Commission to this body?
Yes.
All right. And we just had a conversation about that, didn't we, in the hallway?
We did.
And did we take that up with Mr. Talia to discuss whether they'd be agreeable to continue today or whether we should postpone?
We did, and the verdict was that they would like to continue. Now, I'm taking this conversation with Mr. Talia as he's representing Mr. Cummings. So I have not spoken to Mr. Cummings whether he wants to proceed, but I'm presuming his counselor does.
Let me ask a specific question. What specifically is missing? Just the one letter?
Just the one letter.
And can you identify the letter by date and from whom and to whom?
I can. That's not it.
And presumably it's not in the board packet either.
Correct.
That's
This
the point.
is the actual letter, and it is dated March 13th, 2015, and it is a letter of appeal to the Board of Supervisors. You see several letters that Mr. Cummings has written that are in the packet, but those are mostly all to the Planning Commission. This did escape. the packet and the
And
process.
that's from Mr. Cummings to the Board of Supervisors.
Supervisors,
And it's
correct.
dated, I'm sorry, what date?
It's dated March 13th, 2015.
Let me ask a quick question, if I may. Mr. Talley and Mr. Cummings, before we proceed, obviously, you folks generated that letter and lodged it with the county. It didn't make the packet today, and I regret that, but that's nevertheless the state of affairs. Do you want to continue?
Yes.
Okay.
The only problem is Maury, the letter I have is dated March 11th. And is March 13th the receipt date?
Yes, I'm sorry, the receipt date is what I'm talking about.
Very good.
So are we talking about the same letter?
Yes.
Okay. And so, gentlemen, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Talley, you'd like to proceed anyways, despite that perceived irregularity?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have a copy for the board, though?
Yeah, I think Galen was busy making copies. Are these all the copies?
Yeah.
How many are here?
There should be 15, I believe. Can I see what you have?
And is it a fair statement that the content of the letter, there's nothing really any new material in there? It generally restates your position and the basis for your appeal. And you've made the arguments that are contained in many of the letters to the Planning Commission, and you'll be making those again today, is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Essentially, it's basically the same substance.
Yes.
It does address another subject that's not in the other council.
Let's look at the council, let's take a couple minutes and let us read this out.
I think that's a perfectly
It's
sound
only,
idea.
it's only a page and a half.
Thank you.
Give us a couple minutes here.
When you get done, I'd like to ask Maria a question. You can do that after.
On this letter, Mr. Burns,
Yes.
it states about the chairman of the planning commission has conflict of interest. Do you aware of anything?
I'm not aware of
I just want to be more aware of.
that. Is that Chairman Solomon? I think he's still the chair of the planning commission.
Yes, and I don't know exactly where he lives, so Galen's trying to get a distance.
He's nowhere near this.
I mean, I don't know.
If we're talking about 500-foot rule and the like.
I don't know, that really don't have any stipulations of what we do here today. I was just curious about what was going on the planning commission.
I think we're talking more in his letter about just the common law conflict requirement of disinterested diligence. He spoke out and said certain things that caused Mr. Cummings to feel there was a bias, but I don't think that's material to today.
Okay, good enough. Go ahead, any staff report that you can.
Also, I just want to let the board know that there has been correspondence introduced just now. One is from Patty Gomez, and it's quick, so I'll just read it into the record. As a property owner next to the project, we feel at this time, given the current circumstances, the proposed parcel division would create a density inconsistent with the surrounding rural area. In this high desert county, or excuse me, I think it's supposed to be county, we have more drought years than wet years to replenish the groundwater, so this project, if approved, could create 7 home sites, wells, septic systems on 10-acre parcel. Concerned neighbor Patty Gomez and Ross Gomez. And then also, there's a letter that came in that I'm fumbling around for here. The letter has Paul and Brookshire Mehawk, and I probably slaughtered all those. Mehawk.
Brooke and Paul Mehawk.
And it says, Supervisors, we are asking that you not grant the waiver for the proposed parcel splits on Common Road. We have experienced a drop in the level of our own well over the last 5 years. Therefore, we do not believe the area could sustain the additional residential wells needed to support the proposed properties without adversely affecting the existing homes in the area. Your consideration in this matter is greatly appreciated sincerely. Those are the 2 items that just went.
If you would please give those to the clerk. And before we get to Mr. Chapman's question, if I could, just on a matter of procedure, we were talking about this letter that didn't hit the packet, and that's the letter dated March 11, received March 13 from Mr. Cummings to the supervisors, really his letter of appeal. In the 3rd paragraph, it references an Exhibit A, which is attached. I don't see it, but is that part of the packet? That, of course, is, sorry, maybe you want to come back to that. And then also, the next paragraph references a letter that he had prepared for the Planning Commission for your review that was also purportedly attached, but it's not to this. I presume that's in the packet, and want to make sure that we have all the material that the applicant wants to submit and did submit for the board's consideration.
Are you asking me? I believe the conditions of approval are in the packet twice. Once from the Planning Commission and once for today's proposed if the appeal is granted.
And that's the first attachment, or Exhibit A, if you're talking about the conditions of approval, correct? In that 3rd paragraph.
Well, I didn't write this letter of appeal, but I think it is.
Yeah.
The conditions of approval, I think.
Well, there should be in the letter 4 attachments.
Okay.
So this paragraph 3 is stating that attached is the original resolution from the original split above there. And no, I do not believe that is in the packet.
The conditions of approval are in the packet.
This is Exhibit A.
And he attached the 2 pages to the appeal letter.
I'll take your word for it then.
They're in there twice.
Okay, then I think the question has been answered by the applicant.
So what was Bob's second question?
The next paragraph references a letter that had been prepared for the Planning Commission for the board's, this board's review. It lays out Mr. Cummings' plans in regards to the property for his family, as well as his input about the objection of a distant neighbor. And the question is that in the packet as well? I want to make sure that everything has been included that Mr. Cummings wanted to include as part of the appeal. I don't want there to be something that gets left out and have a decision made on an incomplete record.
And I note that in the packet there are several letters from Mr. Cummings, so I would not be in a position to identify one from the other.
Why can't we copy it now
We
the
can.
way it was submitted, and just take a minute. Because I wouldn't bet my life that that letter to the planning commission is in the packet.
Mr. Cummings, if you have that, I'll see to it copies are made and distributed promptly.
It's a copy of the letter I submitted. This is the letter you read.
Yes,
This here is in your packet to the commission.
yes,
This here is Exhibit A that should be attached. It talks about.
and that's in twice, right?
This talks about the
Conditions of approval?
condition to, that we're following through with now,
Yes.
with the previous,
But that's in there twice, correct?
that's not in the packet as far as I saw. So that's the letter.
Okay.
This is a map that shows the vicinity of section 6, actually, where my property is.
Okay.
It's attached.
Okay, so which one specifically should we copy for you?
Well, it's Exhibit A, mainly what I'm referring to is
I
this.
think we should copy all the attachments to
That's
his
a
letter.
great idea. May I have that? And I'll just get a bunch of copies made.
And then the map on the last page.
Okay. There you go. Thank you. Those were all the questions I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any question by the board of the staff report?
Yes, I do have one question, and I just want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. I think I do, but yeah, it's, it goes back to the heart of the decision that was made by the planning commission, and it talks, I mean, I'm looking at this map, and this is on page 28, and then I'm looking at kind of aerial map that's on page 54, this one, and I'm looking at your colored map on the screen, and from what I understand, Mr. Cummings owns, based on the parcel map, the parcel that's identified with the 40 circle and the one with 44, and there's references in, I think it's the letter of March 11th, which we just got today, where it talked about the APN number 1310940 and 44. So Mr. Cummings is looking at those two parcels as his total holdings, and when he had 20.11 acres and what was it, 10 point, anyway, it comes to 30 acres roughly, give or take a little bit, and using the zoning of A2, B4, he divides 4 into 30 and comes up with 7. So in that respect, he's looking at it from a point of view of entitlement as to how many parcels he can create out of, the holdings he has, which is, I don't know if it's one parcel that's split by the road or if it's two parcels, but regardless, it's about 30 acres. And, obviously when zoning's done, and I think this is for the benefit of our newer members of the board, and this, what I did see in the administrative record or file is the history. What I see the planning commission proposing, or at least the majority of them going along, because my commissioner voted no. He voted to support the application. And Mr. Purdy came and saw me afterwards and told me that, he talked about Spoonville, and he was going back to the history, and he thinks that, historically this is how the property was being used. So he was at odds with the commission originally, I guess, in January. They split 2-2 with one of the members being gone, and then that member came back and wound up abstaining, but then one of the people who voted, I guess, yes,
For it.
changed and voted no, and so it became a 3-1 vote in the end. But this isn't the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time where we see, and what Mr. Purdy indicated to me was talking about using the density option, where if you have a fair amount of property, you kind of crowd everybody. I think this is similar to the dispute that's going on right now up on Day Road in the Northwest Fire District area in Aaron's backyard, up in the upper corner of the county, where they kind of basically herd all the properties into a particular area and leave the remainder of the property is kind of like as this, that's the trade-off, is having the open thing. Unless you specifically put on some maps that this is now, even though you have the zoning that shows that you could go down to smaller parcels, it opens the door for later on. So 3 staffs later, you have staff changeovers over 20 years, 10 years, however often, maybe every year, and you get board changeover, and now it's, jump ahead, it's 2025, this is 2015, and the board that was here in 1980 and 1985 or 1990, I could tell you had this very issue before them. And, okay, those 4 parcels were created on the top, and, you know, we're creating this kind of like, okay, we're going to crowd everything over here, and we're going to leave all this here kind of open. But if you don't track that, and the only way you can is if you put it on the map, I don't see that being proposed in this action. It means that you come back later on, and you begin, okay, now you got a 20-acre parcel on the south side of the road, and without any reference to the density on the north side of the road that was a trade-off back when, you come back in and you divide 5 parcels out of that particular one down the road. And I've seen that play out several times. And the new board takes it and says, well, you know, we're property rights advocate, and whatever the property owner, he should be able to get what he wants. So that totally undermines, in my opinion, the zoning. Now, I'm not sure if that's exactly the case that's going here, but if the board does proceed to overturn the planning commission, and there are 3 votes to turn it down, and you do go with this property density where you're creating more parcels on the north side and smaller area in exchange for keeping the bigger parcel on the south side more intact. Put something on there to make it so that 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, a new owner of that property, okay, with that zoning can't come back and say, I have an entitlement now to be able to further divide that, because then we'll wind up with a lot more density than what you hung out with. And I think the concerns the neighbors raise becomes a reality. So I just want to throw that question out, and I just want to find out from staff, is that what is being proposed, this density transfer, where the 20 acres is going to be kept more intact and not divided down in lieu of having more intense divisions on that parcel above?
That is exactly what the staff is conveying to you, and that is what my understanding with Mike all the way through since the beginning, 2002 or whatever it was. That's always been the catch. This is why we can do this. And from staff's perspective, we supported it because the general plan supports that clustering.
Right.
Whether it's the current thing of the board, the flavor of the board now, or not, but we take our marching orders from that book. And so the first division,
hotly contested too,
right,
deciding that clustering option in the general plan.
So the first development also contemplated, he from the beginning has said that will be what's left open space. And so we put a note on the map when we did it that this is not for residential development.
So in those the four parcels that were created, it would be 45, 46, 47, 48. Was that part of the original 44 parcel? Were those 4 parcels created out of the...
Yes, that was one big parcel.
That was one big parcel.
Mm-hmm.
So we created 4.
Right.
Now he wants
2002?
2002-ish.
Okay, that's fine.
And then and now he wants to come back and create 3 more parcels,
Right,
putting the bulk of them on that 5.64 acre piece above and reserving the 20 below.
Exactly.
It would be, well, be 3.
Well, it's actually 2 more parcels.
Yeah,
2 more
additional-
parcels.
two
The
additional
shading,
parcels.
it's split, that bottom 5 acres with the existing family home, that will become smaller to create the 1.1.
And then the remainder would be connected to
The other
20
side
acres below.
stays
And they would be
undeveloped.
restricted from any further,
Absolutely.
and that's on the map, providing that restriction.
I was just looking at the conditions. I thought more that it was in the conditions, that there would be that
Well, the
restriction.
letter shows it on there, Exhibit A.
Yeah,
Shows
there will be a note placed on the map.
Okay, because I think it's extremely important that if that's indeed where they go, because in the past, the county didn't do that. I mean, they agreed to do it in the meeting, okay, but the minutes eventually get buried or disappear.
Sure.
And it's in the
And people
recorder's
change.
office, and the guy comes in, the title company does their search and gives somebody clean title on a piece of property, and it's got the zoning, and he's got 20 acres, and voila, I got 5 parcels. Not realizing those 5 parcels developing had already been traded off to create these little ones above.
Absolutely.
And that's right now underlying